The House will come to order. The invocation today will be given by the Honorable Tom Kuntz, State Representative from the 100th District. Will members, staff, and guests in the gallery please rise? Representative.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Please pray with me. Heavenly Father, I come before you lifting up this legislative body and asking for your divine wisdom. As the founders of our nation humbly acknowledge their dependence on you, we too confess our deep need for your presence and revelation. The matters before us are great, and the challenges we face require more than human understanding. They demand your divine wisdom. Thank you for the promise that if anyone lacks wisdom, they can call and ask, and you will provide it. Today I ask that you pour out your wisdom on every representative here. Lead us in each decision we make. Help us to choose what is right in your sight and what will most benefit the people of our great state. Restore us to the joy of your salvation and uphold in us a willingness and humble spirit. Thank you for your faithful guidance, your help, and your enduring love. In your holy name I pray, amen. Thank you very much.
The clerk will open the board for the purpose of taking attendance. The board is now open. Members, you may check in at your desk. Channel 3 WWMT out of Kalamazoo has permission to record today's session. Channel 9 and 10 WWTV out of Cadillac has permission to record today's session. For the purpose of an introduction, the Speaker recognizes Representative Fairbairn.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise this afternoon to ask the Chamber to join me in welcoming my guests in the West Gallery, Emmett County Sheriff Matt Learstein, Emmett County Undersheriff Rich Banke, and Emmett County Jail Administrator Sam Hunt.
Will the special guest of Representative Fairbairn please rise and welcome to the Michigan House of Representatives. For the purpose of an introduction, the Speaker recognizes Representative Regas.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today I have Shelley Lake and Bill and Mike Nuller here as my guests. They're in the West Gallery.
Will the special guest of Representative Regas please rise and welcome to the Michigan House of Representatives. TV 19 WZMQ out of Marquette has permission to record today's session. For the purposes of introduction, the speaker recognizes Representative Pohutsky.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have some students and teachers visiting from St. Paul's Lutheran School back in Livonia. They are in the gallery. Would like for you to recognize them.
Will the special guest of Representative Pohutsky please rise and welcome to the Michigan House of Representatives. For the purpose of an introduction, the speaker recognizes Representative Meerman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to let the body know there's 10 students from Turning Point USA from Grand Valley State University, and they are over that way.
Will the special guest of Representative Meerman please rise and welcome to the Michigan House of Representatives. For the purposes of an introduction, the speaker recognizes Representative Pastumas.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to congratulate the Lowell wrestling team on 12 consecutive state championships, and they join us here in the East Gallery.
Will the special guest of Representative Pastumas please rise? Welcome to the Michigan House of Representatives. For the purposes of a tribute presentation, the speaker recognizes Representative Regas.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues and honored guests, today I rise with a bittersweet heart to bid farewell to an exceptional young man, Aiden Starr, my intern from Rochester, who has served this office and the people of Michigan's 79th District with unparalleled dedication. Aiden, a junior at Michigan State University, has been a shining example of what it means to serve with integrity, passion, and a relentless commitment to our shared values. Aiden, you came to us with a spark in your eye and hunger to make a difference. Over these months, you've not only met but exceeded every expectation. From researching critical policy issues to engaging with constituents, you've approached every task with professionalism that belies your years. Your sharp mind and tireless work ethic have left an indelible mark on this office, whether it was diving into the complexities of legislation or ensuring our constituents' voices were heard. You did it all with grace and determination. But beyond your contributions here, Aiden, you've shown us the power of conviction. As a young conservative leader,
Colleagues, please give the representative your attention. Speaker recognizes Representative Regas.
thank you, Madam Speaker. As a young conservative leader, you've demonstrated that the next generation is ready to stand firm for liberty, transparency, and the principles that make Michigan strong. Your roots in Rochester and your journey at MSU have shaped you into someone who doesn't just follow, but leads, someone who asks the tough questions and seeks real solutions. As you return to your studies and continue your path, know that you've made a difference. You've reminded us that public service is about heart, about fighting for what's right, and about never backing down. I have no doubt that your future is bright, and I look forward to seeing all that you accomplish, whether it's in the halls of academia, the arena of policy, or wherever your talents take you. On behalf of this chamber and the people of the 79th District, I present to you after session a tribute to Aiden Starr.
Colleagues,
Who's in the
please join me in thanking Aiden Starr for his service to the Michigan House of Representatives. Colleagues, we've got a member wishing to address the body for another staff farewell. Please give him your attention. For the purpose of a staff farewell, the speaker recognizes Representative Frisbee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today, I'm going to talk to you about our intern, Isabel McCrum, who is with her family up in the gallery. Her mom and dad, Dawn and Ryan, and her siblings, Lexi and Reese, are joining us today. So we're grateful for them to be here. Isabel came to us in January as an MSU student, set to graduate, and she's...
Colleagues, please give your attention to the speaker and his staff farewell. Speaker recognizes Representative Frisbee.
Isabel came to us as an MSU student, set to graduate, and she's made her mark, and she's going to graduate on Saturday with a degree in poli-sci. And as a guy that bleeds blue, it almost pains me to say, go green, go white.
Speaker recognizes Representative Frisbee.
She's going to take a little bit of time off and prepare better for an LSAT to conquer that. She's going to be a paralegal for the next several months. Again, her family is in the gallery up in the west side, Dawn and Ryan, and siblings Lexi and Reese, and I'd like to recognize them as well.
Colleagues, please join me in thanking Isabel for her service to the Michigan House of Representatives. Please rise. Special guest of Representative Frisbee, and welcome to the Michigan House of Representatives. Have all the members checked in? The board is still open. Members, please check in at your desk. For the purposes of an introduction, the speaker recognizes Representative Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today I have guests with me at my seat. I have Director General Dennis Lay and Jay Lin from the Taipei Economic and Cultural Office of Chicago.
Will the special guest of Representative Morgan please rise? Welcome to the Michigan House of Representatives. Speaker recognizes Minority Floor Leader Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to excuse Representatives Farhat, Hoskins, Scott, and Whitsett.
Without objection, so ordered. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Posthumus.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to excuse Representative Thompson.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will close the board, tally, display, and announce today's attendance.
Madam Speaker, quorum, the House is present. There are no members absent with prior excuse.
Will members, staff, and guests in the gallery please rise and join me now in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For the purposes of an introduction, the Speaker recognizes Representative Slaw.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker. Today, I'd like to tell you that I've got 33 students and 12 adults from the Hudsonville Christian Elementary School that are here with us in the gallery. I don't know which side.
Will the special guests of Representative Slaw please rise and welcome to the Michigan House of Representatives. Colleagues, we have got a member wishing to give a staff farewell. Please give her your attention. The Speaker recognizes Representative Steele.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Today I rise, in appreciation and recognition of my legislator directive, colleague, and friend, Jacob Freevold. Jacob has truly been a blessing to me. Yes, I do have emotions. It's hard to believe, but I do. The Hob, the citizens of the 54th District, State of Michigan. He's been in my office for 2 years and the House for 7. When I chose to run for state legislator, I was a mom and an empty nester. I was grateful to be greeted by young staffers in Lansing, especially Jacob, who has helped me bypass the empty nester syndrome. So, however, like at home, here too comes a time where we must encourage our young staff to grow and move forward onto greater horizons. In his years here, he has always been a resourceful young man with a wealth of knowledge, team player with a positive attitude, and he will be missed by me, my office, his colleagues, the colleagues on the floor, of course the Hob, and throughout Lansing. So Jacob exemplifies conservative values by serving God, providing and protecting his family, and faithfully serving Michigan through his hard work, honesty, integrity, and unending support. So Jacob, on behalf of the 54th District and the state of Michigan, thank you for everything you have done. Good luck and Godspeed.
Colleagues, please join me in thanking Jacob Freevelt for his service to the Michigan House of Representatives. Speaker recognizes Representative Rogers.
Democratic colleagues, we will have Democratic caucus in the caucus room.
For the purposes of a special introduction, the Speaker recognizes Representative Bolin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today I have a very special guest, Julianne Williams from Brighton.
Will the special guest of Representative Bolin please rise? Welcome to the Michigan House of Representatives. The House will go at ease at the call of the chair.
The House come to order and proceed to announcements by the clerk of printing and enrollment.
The clerk announced the following bills when reproduced and made available electronically on Wednesday, April 30th. House Bills 4410, 4411.
Reports of standing committees.
The Committee on Rules, Representative Schuette, Chair, reported House Bill 4007 without amendment, with recommendation the bill pass.
Bill be referred to the order of second reading of bills.
The Committee on Rules, Representative Schuette, Chair, reported House Bill 4345 with recommendation that the substitute H1 be adopted and the bill then pass.
Bill be referred to the order of second reading of bills.
The Committee on Government Operations, Representative Gould, Chair, reported House Bill 4288 with recommendation that the substitute H1 be adopted and the bill then pass.
Bill be referred to the order of second reading of bills.
The Committee on Regulatory Reform, Representative Aragona, Chair, reported House Bill 4276 without amendment. With recommendation the bill pass.
Bill be referred to the order of second reading of bills. Notices.
To Clerk Scott Starr from Speaker Matt Hall. Dear Clerk Starr, pursuant to Public Act 195 of 1990, I'm appointing the following member of the Michigan House of Representatives to the Midwestern Higher Education and Compact Executive Committee, the term ending December 31st, 2026. Representative Greg Markkinen, Chair of Appropriations Subcommittee on Higher Education. The House Committee on Finance will be Tuesday, May 6th at 10:30 a.m., room 521 of the House Office Building. The House Appropriations Subcommittee on Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy will meet Tuesday, May 6th at 12 noon in room 308 of the House Office Building. The House Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure will meet Tuesday, May 6th at 12 noon in room 519 of the House Office Building. The House Committee on Rules will meet Thursday, May 8th at 10:30 a.m., room 519 of the House Office Building.
Announcements by the clerk.
Received from the Auditor General a copy of the performance audit on the Branch Operations Division, Department of State, May 2025.
The House will stand at ease. The House come to order and proceed to introduction of bills.
Representative Steele offers House Bill 4412, a bill to amend the Mental Health Code. People of the State of Michigan enact.
The bill be considered read a first time by its title and referred to the Committee on Health Policy.
Representative Tisdale offers House Bill 4413, a bill to amend the Mental Health Code. People of the State of Michigan enact.
The bill be considered read a first time by its title and referred to the Committee on Health Policy.
Representative Kuhn offers House Bill 4414, a bill to amend the Mental Health Code. People of the State of Michigan enact.
The bill be considered read a first time by its title and referred to the Committee on Health Policy.
Representative Kuhn offers House Bill 4415, a bill to amend, enact, revise, consolidate, and add to the laws relating to the establishment, opening, discontinuing, vacating, closing, altering, improvement, maintenance, and the use of public highways. People of the State of Michigan enact.
The bill be considered read a first time by its title and referred to the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure.
Representative Kuhn offers House Bill 4416, a bill to amend the revised school code. People of the State of Michigan enact.
The bill be considered read a first time by its title and referred to the Committee on Education and Workforce.
Representative Mueller offers House Bill 4417, a bill to amend the Public Health Code. People of the State of Michigan enact.
The bill be considered read a first time by its title and referred to the Committee on Regulatory Reform.
Representative Thompson offers House Bill 4418, a bill to amend the Estates and Protected Individuals Code. People of the State of Michigan enact.
The bill be considered read a first time by its title and referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Representative Whitwer offers House Bill 4419, a bill to amend the Estates and Protected Individuals Code. People of the State of Michigan enact.
The bill be considered read a first time by its title and referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Representative Kuntz offers House Bill 4420, a bill to amend the Management and Budget Act. People, State of Michigan, enact.
Bill be considered read first time by title, refer to the Committee on Appropriations.
Consent Coons offers House Bill 4421, a bill to amend the Natural Resources Environmental Protection Act. People, State of Michigan, enact.
Bill be considered read first time by title, refer to the Committee on Natural Resources and Tourism.
Representative Wenzel offers House Bill 4422, a bill to amend the Michigan Liquor Control Code of 1998. People, State of Michigan, enact.
Bill be considered read first time by title, refer to the Committee on Regulatory Reform.
Representative Rogers offers House Bill 4423, a bill to make, supplement, adjust, and consolidate appropriations for various state departments and agencies, judicial branch, and the legislative branch for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2025. People, State of Michigan, enact.
Bill be considered read first time by title, refer to the Committee on Appropriations. The House will stand at ease.
House will come to order. For the purpose of introduction, the Speaker recognizes Representative Slaw.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today, I would like to recognize 31 students and 10 adults from the Hudsonville area. They're in the South Gallery, and they are coming from the Hudsonville Christian Elementary School.
Will the special guest of Representative Slaw please rise? Welcome to the Michigan House of Representatives. For the purpose of an introduction, the Speaker recognizes Representative Paquette.
Hey, thank you, Madam Speaker. I've got 20 brilliant young minds, students, and 17 adults from St. Joseph in the West Gallery from Grace Lutheran School.
Will the special guest of Representative Paquette please rise? Welcome to the Michigan House of Representatives. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Pastumas.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House proceed to the order of third reading of bills and take up calendar item number 5, House Bill 4338.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Calendar item number 5, House Bill 4338, introduced by Representative Cabot, a bill to prohibit local units of government from enacting or enforcing a law, ordinance, policy, or rule that limits local officials, officers, or employees from communicating or cooperating with appropriate federal officials. The people of the state of Michigan enact.
The bill will be considered read for a third time by its title. Are there amendments? There are not. Speaker recognizes Representative Shriver.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Permission to speak to the entire package?
So ordered.
Thank you. Sanctuary cities. They exist to protect criminals, illegal aliens. Just to paint a broad picture of what we've undergone over the past 60 or so years. In 1970, 4.7% of our country was foreign-born. In 2000, that number jumped to 11.1% foreign-born. In 2030, that number is projected to be almost 20% foreign-born. Sanctuary cities are eroding the foundation of our nation. Senior advisor to President Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, and Ronald Reagan, Patrick Buchanan, wrote in the introduction of his book, The Death of the West, in 2002, mind you. The chasm in our country is not one of income, ideology, or faith, but of ethnicity and loyalty. Illegal aliens undermine our national sovereignty. The largest population transfer in history is coming from all the races in Asia, Africa, Latin America, and they are not acclimating, they are not melting, and they are not reforming to the American way of life. This is something that needs to be addressed. Sanctuary cities are harboring these illegal aliens. I urge a no vote on this package, and I urge everyone to reconsider what's happening in our nation and to protect America first. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Speaker recognizes Representative Miller.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Permission to speak on the entire package.
So ordered.
Today I rise with deep respect for my colleagues, but also with serious concerns with these bills. Look, I support strong, safe communities and local government. I support public safety and law enforcement, and I support smart, effective policies. But what these bills do not make our communities safer. And while I appreciate the work that has gone into these bills, they do not meet the threshold for me. They do not make us safer. In fact, they tie the hands of law enforcement, diverting them to enforce federal immigration policy, and that's not their job. It forces them, law enforcement, what this does is violates the Constitution, and it's holding law enforcement with a bag of very expensive possible lawsuits, and I just don't agree with that. These bills would effectively prohibit law enforcement, again, from establishing their own policies, which would directly be in control of local government. Look, I've heard many of you say that we need to support local government. Yes, and law enforcement and public safety. They would allow the state to punish cities, counties, or law enforcement agencies that choose to focus their resources on community safety instead of federal immigration priorities. Local law enforcement can and does work with federal officials when legitimate threats arise. But what these bills do is mandate broad cooperation with ICE, even in cases where it could be undermining community safety. These are policies motivated only to divide us. And I want to say further that these bills discourage crime reporting from immigrant communities, putting others at risk. These bills are not improving public safety. They're about politics. They're about messaging. People want real solutions, not political theater. So I urge my colleagues to reject this state overreach and protect the rights of local leaders to serve their communities. We don't need drama at all. Thank you.
Speaker recognizes Representative DeSena.
Permission to speak to the entire package.
So ordered.
Today I rise in support of House Bill 4342, part of a common sense package that puts the rule of law, the safety of our citizens, and the sovereignty of our state first. Michigan is a state built on hard work, personal responsibility, and respect for the law. Our constituents, legal residents, taxpayers, and business owners expect us to uphold those values. But sanctuary cities erode them. When local governments declare that they will not cooperate with federal immigration authorities, they are not practicing compassion. They are undermining the very foundations of our legal system and making our communities less safe. Let me be clear. This legislation does not target immigrants. It targets lawlessness. It says to local governments, if you choose to ignore federal immigration enforcement, if you choose to harbor those who have broken our nation's immigration laws, you will not receive taxpayer dollars to subsidize that lawlessness. House Bill 4338 prohibits the appropriation of statutory revenue-sharing funds to any local government that has adopted a sanctuary policy. House Bill 4339 requires local governments to report their cooperation with federal immigration authorities to remain eligible for future funding. House Bill 4342 empowers the state treasurer to withhold these funds and ensure accountability. The facts are not in dispute. In sanctuary jurisdictions across the country, violent offenders have been released back into communities despite federal detainer requests. According to a 2023 report from the Department of Homeland Security, over 10,000 criminal illegal aliens were released by sanctuary cities in 1 year alone. Some of these individuals had charges ranging from assault to sexual abuse to even homicide. That is unacceptable. It is unjust to every law-abiding citizen and every legal immigrant who came to this country the right way. Let me put it plainly. No city in Michigan should be allowed to pick and choose which federal laws they want to follow while continuing to collect the hard-earned dollars of Michigan taxpayers. We have a duty to restore accountability and reinforce the principle that no one, no individual, and no city is above the law. This is not about politics. This is about public safety. It's about respecting the laws of our state and nation, and it's about making sure Michigan taxpayer dollars do not subsidize cities that have chosen lawlessness over lawful order. I urge my colleagues to stand with the rule of law, stand with Michigan's working families, stand with common sense. I urge a yes vote on this package. Thank you.
Speaker recognizes Representative Pavlo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Permission to speak to the entire package.
So ordered.
I rise to speak to you today in support of Sanctuary Cities package. Michigan is one of 50 states that are proudly entitled the United States of America. Michigan participates in the constitutional federalist system of government handed down to us by our forefathers. By the powers entrusted by the Constitution, the federal government has the authority and responsibility to enforce local, legal, and investigatory actions in matters of national security. National security is a national or federal issue. As members of this great union, the state of Michigan must contribute to this rule of law just the same as every other state. While the responsibility of national security doesn't belong to the state, cooperation between the state and the federal government is a responsibility shared by every state that wishes to be a part of the United States of America. Critics of this legislation may claim that this rejects local control. However, this critique is foolish because national security never has been and never should be a matter of local governmental jurisdiction. Therefore, local governments should never assume the responsibility of national security when the federal government is attempting to conduct its rightful and constitutional duty of national security. This legislation requires local governments to remove laws, policies, rules, or ordinances that prevent federal officials from accomplishing their constitutionally required duties. It would be shameful for our state to disrespect our constitutional system by allowing such practices to exist in various localities throughout our state. Furthermore, citizens of our state are citizens of the United States of America. Michiganders are Americans. The federal government is required by the Constitution to ensure national security. Therefore, their efforts for national security include efforts inside of Michigan. Thus, our local governments should not prohibit the federal government from providing the services that our Constitution demands for American citizens. I urge all of my colleagues in this body to vote in favor of the Sanctuary Cities package and join me in publicly declaring that the great state of Michigan is proud to cooperate with the constitutionally designated powers of the federal government for the betterment of our entire country. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Speaker recognizes Representative Cavett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. May I speak to the whole package?
So ordered.
I rise today in strong support of House Bills 43338, 4339, and 4342. Legislation that puts public safety and the rule of law first. These bills stop local government from adopting sanctuary policies that block cooperation with federal immigration authorities. Local officials have no business protecting people who broke the law to be here, especially those who are committing further crimes. This legislation ensures law enforcement can do its job without interference, holds local governments accountable, and protects taxpayer dollars from funding lawlessness. The only place an illegal immigrant belongs in Michigan is on the bus back home. This is common sense legislation, and I urge a yes vote. Thank you.
The question before the House is the passage of the bill. A record roll call vote is required. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will open the board. The clerk will close the board, tally, display, and announce the vote.
Madam Speaker, on the question of final passage of House Bill 4338, there are 58 aye votes and 48 nay votes.
A majority of the members elected and serving having voted in favor, therefore, the bill has passed. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Posthumous.
Move for immediate effect.
The Majority Floor Leader moves for immediate effect. All those in favor will rise. Immediate effect is ordered. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Posthumous.
Continuing on the order of third reading of bills, I move that the House take up calendar item number 6, House Bill 4339.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Calendar item number 6, House Bill 4339, introduced by Representative Pavlo, a bill to prohibit counties from enacting or enforcing any law, ordinance, policy, or rule that limits peace officers or local officials, officers, or employees from communicating or cooperating with appropriate federal officials. The people of the state of Michigan enact.
The bill will be considered read for a third time by its title. Are there amendments? There are not. The question before the House is the passage of the bill. A record roll call vote is required. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will open the board. Clerk will close the board, tally, display, and announce the vote.
Madam Speaker, on the question of final passage of House Bill 4339, there are 58 aye votes and 48 nay votes.
A majority of the members elected and serving having voted in favor, therefore, the bill has passed. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Posthumus.
I move for immediate effect.
The Majority Floor Leader moves for immediate effect. All those in favor will rise. Immediate effect is ordered. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Posthumus.
Continuing on the order of third reading bills, I move that the House take up calendar item number 9, House Bill 4342.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Calendar item number 9, House Bill 4342, introduced by Representative DeSena, a bill to amend the Glenn-style State Revenue Sharing Act of 1971. People of the State of Michigan enact.
The bill will be considered read for a third time by its title. Are there amendments? There are not. The question before the House is the passage of the bill. A record roll call vote is required. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will open the board. The clerk will close the board. Representative Bruck votes aye. The clerk will tally, display, and announce the vote.
Madam Speaker, on the question of final passage of House Bill 4342, there are 57 aye votes and 49 nay votes.
A majority of the members elected and serving having voted in favor, therefore, the bill has passed. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Posthumus.
Move for immediate effect.
The Majority Floor Leader moves for immediate effect. All those in favor will rise. Immediate effect is ordered. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Posthumus.
Continuing on the order of third reading of bills, I move that the House take up calendar item number 7, House Bill 4340.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Calendar item number 7, House Bill 4340, introduced by Representative Linting, a bill to amend the Social Welfare Act. People of the State of Michigan enact.
The bill will be considered read for a third time by its title. Are there amendments? There are not. Speaker recognizes Representative Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Permission to speak to the entire package?
So ordered.
I stand before you today not just to support this legislation, but to champion it, because the time for half measures and political timidness has passed. House Bills 4340 and 4341 deserve the utmost attention from the members in this chamber. This legislation is about an unshakable truth, and it must guide our actions. Michigan taxpayers and Michigan residents come first. Our boldly crafted bills guarantee that our precious public resources go to Michigan residents. Every dollar of food assistance, every Medicaid benefit, every housing opportunity, every subsidized rental is rightfully belonging to the residents of the state of Michigan. They should rightfully be directed to those who have paid their dues and who have played by the rules. These resources should go to our lawful Michigan residents. This does not undermine federal law. In fact, it reinforces it. Right now, we cannot continue to drain Michigan's already depleted resources. And let me be very, very clear. We will not apologize for putting legal Michiganders first. These bills are not about division. They are actually about fundamental fairness. Consider these realities. Michigan veterans who've risked everything for our freedom are left behind sleeping on cold streets in the state of Michigan right now. Single mothers are working themselves to exhaustion at multiple jobs, and they cannot even access basic benefits. Michigan families have been crushed beneath an unbearable weight of the skyrocketing costs in the state of Michigan. These are our neighbors. These are local taxpayers. These are law-abiding citizens. They should never, not once, have to compete against those who knowingly entered this country illegally for the resources that they need to survive. America has always been and will always be a nation of immigrants, legal immigrants, who respected our processes and have honored our laws. Madam Chair, Michigan is a beautiful, diverse state. Of course, legal immigrants should have access to the government assistance programs that they need. I urge my colleagues to vote yes on this package because Michigan families and taxpayers are watching. Thank you.
Speaker recognizes Representative Linteen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Permission to speak to the whole package.
So ordered.
I rise today in support of House Bill 4340 and 4341. At its core, this legislation is about fairness and respect for Michigan taxpayers. It is our duty to ensure that those who have paid into the system, who have followed the law, who are struggling to get by, are not pushed to the back of the line. I ask my colleagues to have compassion for those Michigan families, the single parents who are working 2 jobs just to keep the lights on, and our veterans who are living on the street after honorably serving our country. There is nothing hateful about saying that these individuals deserve to be prioritized. To be clear, this legislation will not prevent any immigrant here legally, from green card holders to asylum seekers, from receiving the benefits they pay into. Again, this is about fairness to United States citizens and immigrants who came here lawfully. I urge a yes vote on House Bill 4340 and 4341.
The question before the House is the passage of the bill. A record roll call vote is required. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will open the board. clerk will close the board. Representative Bigol votes aye. The clerk will tally, display, and announce the vote.
Madam Speaker, on the question of final passage of House Bill 4340, there are 63 aye votes and 43 nay votes.
A majority of the members elected and serving having voted in favor, therefore, the bill has passed. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Posthumous.
Move for immediate effect.
The Majority Floor Leader moves for immediate effect. All those in favor will rise. Immediate effect is ordered. For the purpose of an introduction, the Speaker recognizes Representative Miller.
Speaker. Today we have Savage Elementary students here. There's 41 students and 17 adults from Belleville, Michigan in the East Gallery. Can we give them a warm welcome to the House?
Will the special guest of Representative Miller please rise and welcome to the Michigan House of Representatives. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Posthumous.
Continuing on the order of third reading of bills, I move that the House take up calendar item number 8, House Bill 4341.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Calendar item number 8, House Bill 4341, introduced by Representative Thompson, a bill to amend the State Housing Development Authority Act of 1966. The people of the state of Michigan enact.
The bill will be considered read for a third time by its title. Are there amendments? There are not. The question before the House is the passage of the bill. A record roll call vote is required. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will open the board. The clerk will close the board, tally, display, and announce the vote.
Madam Speaker, on the question of final passage of House Bill 4341, there are 63 aye votes and 43 nay votes.
A majority of the members elected and serving having voted in favor, therefore, the bill has passed. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Posthumous.
Move for immediate effect.
The Majority Floor Leader moves for immediate effect. All those in favor will rise. Immediate effect is ordered. Chair. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Posthumous.
Continuing on the order of third reading of bills, I move that the House take up calendar item number 3, House Joint Resolution B.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
Calendar item number 3, House Joint Resolution B, introduced by Representative Posthumous, A joint resolution proposing an amendment to the state constitution of 1963 by amending sections 1 and 4 of Article 2.
The joint resolution will be considered read for a third time by its title. Are there amendments? There are not. Speaker recognizes Representative Zong.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today, I rise to urge a no vote on this legislation. I support measures that further safeguard our elections, but this legislation misses the mark. This legislation will disproportionately burden our senior citizens, many of whom have voted for more than half of their life and will now be burdened with unnecessary obstacles of providing proof of documentations that they may not even have. This legislation will impact those that are disabled and may lack access to transportation and can't get to the clerk's office. It will make it harder for our military service members serving overseas and who may have issues with timely accessing documents required under this legislation. It would especially disenfranchise more than 2 million married women in Michigan. It's a deliberate attempt to making voting more difficult for U.S. citizens under the guise of making our elections more secure. And that is why I strongly urge a no vote on this resolution. Thank you.
Speaker recognizes Representative Kolazar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Let me start off by saying that I do agree with the sponsor on one particular issue. No one should be illegally voting in our elections. However, this legislation is not the answer. HJRB is not some new revolutionary idea. It has been tried in other states, and it has failed. Let's take a look at Kansas, a state that has enforced a similar piece of legislation. After 3 years, the court found that the number of non-citizens that their version of this resolution prevented from registering was, quote, statistically indistinguishable from zero. Who their policy did prevent from registering to vote was 31,000 legal U.S. citizens. To look at this another way, more than 99% of the individuals whose voter registration applications were suspended were U.S. citizens who would have been able to vote if the documented proof of citizenship requirement was not enforced. In short, we know from concrete trial and error that this type of policy not only doesn't do what it is intended for, but will actually bar U.S. citizens from exercising their freedom to vote. Additionally, this legislation will require Michiganders to pay money to produce documents in order to vote. That is a poll tax. A copy of a birth certificate can cost $34. A passport can cost between $130 and $165. That is over $100 that a single mother has to cough up because her surname on her driver's license may no longer match the name of her birth certificate. Now, I've heard the sponsors say that this legislation allows for economic hardship exemptions for these expenses. And while I do appreciate that, does that mean that the middle class who are seeing their paychecks continuously squeezed have to pay a poll tax? This poll tax will specifically prevent working families and married or recently divorced women from voting. Madam Speaker, only U.S. citizens should be voting in our elections. This is a principle every member in this body can wholeheartedly agree on. However, despite this policy's intent, its impact will do far more harm than good. It's un-American, it's unpatriotic. It delivers the opposite of election integrity. I encourage my colleagues to vote no. Thank you.
Speaker recognizes Representative DeBoyer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Joint Resolution B is common sense. It is overwhelmingly asked for and supported by the people of the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan has, by numerous accounts, 90,000, as many as 90,000 illegal immigrants in Michigan, and as many as 700,000 non-American citizens that live within our border. Those non-American citizens are a contributing member to our society. They go to work, they participate. However, our Constitution simply provides that if you so choose to vote, you must be a United States citizen. What this House Joint Resolution does is it puts that in stone and says you must demonstrate your eligibility to vote when you first register. You hear lots of things that are outside of that. You hear things that say it is a poll tax. You hear things that say that it is going to be a hardship. I would argue that, number one, none of those things are true, and that by putting this in place, it cements in place the simplest and most important aspect of our system: certainty in an outcome, and only eligible individuals will be allowed to vote. Therefore, we will be able to move forward as a society and know results are definitive. Madam Speaker, I urge a yes vote on this resolution. Thank you.
Speaker recognizes Representative Cernoglu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today in strong opposition to Joint Resolution B. This resolution takes us down a dangerous path. Over the past 2 years, we worked hard to make Michigan the #2 state in voter access and democracy. Now, the first chance they get, my colleagues across the aisle are trying to make it harder for every single American citizen who lives in Michigan to vote, and telling us that this is the only way to make our elections more secure. We can always do more to make our elections more secure, and we should. I will continue to pursue my goal of making Michigan elections #1 in the nation, not only in accessibility, but in security as well. And here's the thing. We don't have to make it harder to vote to make our elections more secure. We don't have to make people find their long-lost birth certificates, because let's be honest here, if I asked everyone in this chamber to produce their birth certificate tomorrow morning, a good number of you would come up short. And while many of us do have passports, many of us don't. For those of us who do, we don't carry them around unless we're on the way to the airport, and we shouldn't be expected to. And for the 80% of women who took their husbands' names when they got married, this one doesn't apply to me, who would take a name like Cernoglu if you weren't born with it. Well, guess what? Your husband's name isn't on your birth certificate, so that's not going to count. Well, I guess you just go get a new one. Anyway, let's not do that. Let's make government work for the people, not make all of our citizens have to do extra work to access their voting rights. To my colleagues across the aisle, let's talk. There are a number of pro-voter solutions that don't inconvenience American citizens and still address all of your concerns. How about having our Department of State do more audits before the elections and not after? What about using existing records to check new registrations on a rolling basis? How about adding bold, not to be missed signage at every polling place, laying out the consequences of voting as a non-citizen? And let's put it in some different languages that reflect the population of the district to avoid any potential language barriers. How about working with public universities to register all incoming students that are American citizens? And here's one of my long-term goals, which is to get photo IDs from the Department of State securely accessible to our election workers on Election Day, and thus alleviating the need for voters to even bring their own photo ID. With new technologies available every day, the things we can do to increase the security of our elections are limitless. We are ready to offer real solutions. So let's not turn back the clock and put onerous burdens on everyday American citizens in the name of election integrity. Let's keep moving forward and address every challenge with bold new ideas that promote democracy, accessibility, and security, all at the same time. I will be voting no on today's resolution in favor of better, smarter, less burdensome ideas, and I encourage my colleagues to join me. Don't make it harder to vote. Make it harder to cheat. Thank you.
Speaker recognizes Representative Wooden.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today in opposition to House Joint Resolution B. Like many of my colleagues, I too believe it should be easy to vote and hard to cheat. We can all agree that only American citizens should be voting in our elections, and I sincerely respect and believe the sincerity behind the sponsor and the supporters of this legislation, and I welcome any reasonable solutions to help achieve this. But HJRB is neither reasonable nor a solution that accomplishes what it sets out for. This proposed constitutional amendment will block Michiganders from their right to vote. So-called proof of citizenship laws like this one have deprived thousands of legal American citizens of their right to vote in other states, like 31,000 Kansans and 43,000 Arizonans. Yet despite this outrageous cost of people's legal right to vote, there were still at least 2 instances of non-citizens still being able to register to vote in Arizona. This legislation succeeds in blocking the right to vote from American citizens, but fails to guarantee that only Americans can vote. Now, it has been asserted that HJRB will not jeopardize the right to vote for married women who have changed their last name, but there is no protection in this proposed amendment guaranteeing that. It has been asserted that a national database may be created by the time this amendment takes effect, so no citizen would be hindered by this new requirement, despite this body having no authority to ensure such a database would exist. It's been asserted that anyone who shared such concerns had either not read the bill or were flat out lying. Well, I have read the legislation more times than I'd like to admit, and I've had the chance to compare it to the Arizona law, both the 2004 proposal and the 2022 rewrite, the Kansas law, and the proposed SAVE Act. And the only substantive difference between this resolution and the others is that several of the implementation details will be left to a future legislature to hammer out. Yet what this legislature and those states could not hammer out is the fact that 1 in 10 American citizens do not have documented proof of citizenship readily available. American citizens will lose their right to vote because they cannot obtain these documents quick enough. I don't think I need to remind any of my colleagues the speed of bureaucracy at times. And any hardship provisions added to this legislation does not replace the fact that American citizens will now be forced to pay for their right to vote, a practice Americans fought and died to end in this country. Those most likely to have their right to vote jeopardized are seniors on fixed income, the working poor, homeless folk, young persons, and yes, married women. They are struggling enough to have their right to vote jeopardized. Whether from rising costs from a failed trade war, looming federal cuts to health care and child care, these people cannot afford having their right to vote jeopardized. And so I ask my colleagues, vote no on this dangerous resolution to undermine our constitutional right to vote. Thank you.
Speaker recognizes Representative Bolin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, today I rise in support of House Resolution HJRB. As many of you know, I spent 16 years as a local clerk, responsible for administering elections, including maintaining the voter rolls, accurate voter rolls. Fair, free, and secure elections are incumbent upon having voter rolls that are accurate, voter rolls that are current, and voter rolls that conform to the Constitution of the United States, the state of Michigan, the laws of our nation, and the laws of this great state. Nationally, we have certain requirements that must be met. One of the most consequential requirements is being a U.S. citizen. Currently, the National Voter Registration Act does not allow us to verify U.S. citizenship for federal elections, but nothing prohibits the state of Michigan from verifying U.S. citizenship. HJRB will establish a uniform process to verify U.S. citizenship in the state of Michigan to vote in our local and state elections. While we know there has been much conversation and, frankly, noise around our elections, we should all have a very common goal of ensuring that every eligible voter can vote freely, secretly, independently, and securely. Michigan is fortunate to have both the Department of Motor Vehicles and the Bureau of Elections under one roof, both under the jurisdiction of a statewide elected official, the Secretary of State. The Bureau of Elections utilizes the driver's license data as the base of our qualified voter file, or QVF. Michigan election law requires your voter registration address to be the same as your driver's license. In 2005, the federal government imposed a new regulation referred to as Real ID. The implementation date has been postponed several times. As the federal deadline approaches, our very own Secretary of State has boasted about the high rate of individuals that have upgraded or obtained a Real ID. In late March, we were close to 80% in the state of Michigan. In fact, the Secretary of State has spent extensive resources and time informing people across the state of Michigan of not only the deadline, but the benefits and simple process of obtaining the Real ID, including the list of documents. That list of documents includes presenting in person the following: a Michigan driver's license or Michigan ID, a current passport, your birth certificate, or an I-51 permanent resident card or foreign passport with a U.S. visa. Similarly, if you change your name, you merely provide the appropriate documents. Benefit of Real ID includes uniform standards across the country, increased public confidence, enhanced security at our airports and including election security, and more accurate voter rolls. Ladies and gentlemen, this resolution is not a poll tax, it is not a deterrent, but what it is a complement to Real ID and a common sense proposal to ensure that we are following the most fundamental and elementary requirements to vote, verifying U.S. citizenship. As a second-generation U.S. citizen, a former clerk, and someone who has changed their name due to marriage, widowhood, and a second marriage, I urge a yes vote on HJRB to advance democracy and protect the vote.
Speaker recognizes Majority Leader Posthumous.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like you all to imagine with me real quick, if we were to replace the PIN on our debit card with just a checkbox that asked if you were authorized to use that card. No other guardrails, no additional safety measures, relying solely on the criminal to admit freely they were committing fraud. Would you feel that your bank account was safe? Would you feel it was secure? This is the same loophole known in Michigan's election law that allows non-citizens to vote. While opponents have claimed that only U.S. citizens are able to vote currently, the reality is it simply is just not the case. The only thing in place currently to stop a non-citizen from voting is a single checkbox asking someone if they are a citizen. People can and have lied during this process, allowing them to vote and having that vote count. Our elections should be more secure than the honor system. We know that a Chinese national voted in our 2024 presidential election, and we know that vote counted, because there is no way to cancel a ballot once it's been tabulated. The only reason we know this happened is because he turned himself in. He came forward, raised his hand, and said, "Hey, I voted in our election." Our current system has no safeguards in place to stop him or any other non-citizen from casting their ballot. Less than a year ago, the Secretary of State, our chief elections official, stated that no foreign nationals were voting in our election. In October, she changed that. Then she just said it was just one. Now, after an internal personal performance review by the Secretary of State, she admits that 16 non-citizens may have voted in our election. Starting with 0, going to 1, then 16. While a self-administered personal performance review is a step in the right direction, unfortunately, it's wholly inadequate. Contrary to other states, federal government databases were not involved, not the Social Security Administration, not the Department of Homeland Security. The truth is, we have no way of knowing how big this problem is, but even if it was just one illegal vote, no citizen should have their vote canceled out by a non-citizen voting in the opposite direction. You know, there are a few fundamental beliefs that I hold. One, the ability to participate in our democratic process by voting is a right. The right to vote is sacred and an honor. The right to vote is also our civic duty and our responsibility. It should be easy to vote, and it should be difficult to cheat. And I believe that only U.S. citizens should vote in our elections, and ID should be required when casting your ballot. This legislation would give the people of Michigan the choice to amend our state constitution to ensure that only U.S. citizens can vote in our elections. Again, let me highlight that. This vote is to determine whether the people of Michigan should have the choice to do this. It would require proof of citizenship when registering to vote, and it would require ID to cast that ballot, whether voting in person or absentee. This amendment would also require the state to provide photo ID and proof of citizenship documentation at no cost to the individual if they cannot afford it. Despite arguments from our opponents, even under the amendment, it is still easier to vote than it is to shop at Costco. You know, we've heard some arguments today that I want to address a little bit. First, let me start with the idea that this is statistically insignificant, so it is unneeded. A couple points on that. Point number one, in the year 2000, our presidential election was determined by 527 votes. I don't know how many ballots were cast that year, maybe 65 million, maybe 70 million. 527 votes determined the President of the United States of America. Sitting in our chamber today, in this body right now, one of our colleagues won his election by 79 votes. Last session period, we had a member of this body that won his election by 17 votes. That's it. So to say it's statistically insignificant, I would argue it is extremely significant to our country. Along that point, the statistical insignificant nature. The reality is this does more than just address that issue. It goes a little bit further. You see, there is a push in our country to legalize the act of voting as non-citizens in local and state elections. In California, we are seeing this. In New York, we are seeing this. And so this constitutional amendment would ensure, in Michigan, that'll never happen. Only U.S. citizens will be able to vote. You know, another thing I want to address as well, my colleagues mentioned the states of Arizona and Kansas and issues facing their constitutional amendment. Trying to paint HJRB as the same thing that happened in those states. The reality is they are different. The fact of the matter is they are different. We had the benefit of being able to learn from the mistakes of the past to address the issues that created those problems, and they have been addressed. Now, as elected officials, we have a responsibility to protect the voice of the people here in Michigan. This resolution is a common sense way to close a massive loophole in our current system, and it's supported by nearly 85% of the population of our country. Please join me in ensuring that only U.S. citizens vote in our elections by voting yes on this resolution. Thank you.
The question before the House is the adoption of House Joint Resolution B. A record roll call vote is required. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will open the board. The clerk will close the board, tally, and announce the vote.
Madam Speaker, on the question of adoption of House Joint Resolution B, there are 58 aye votes and 48 nay votes.
2/3 of the members elected and serving having not voted in favor, therefore, the joint resolution is not adopted. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Posthumous.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to reconsider the vote.
The Majority Floor Leader moves to reconsider the vote on House Joint Resolution B. All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The vote is reconsidered. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Posthumous.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to pass for the day.
The question is on the adoption. Without objection, so ordered. For the purposes of an introduction, the Speaker recognizes Representative Miller.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Our second group of students from Belleville, Michigan are here today from Savage Elementary. We have 28 students and 13 adults. Let's give them a round welcome.
Will the special guest of Representative Miller please rise and welcome to the Michigan House of Representatives. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Posthumus.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House proceed to the order of second reading of bills and take up House Bill 4288.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
House Bill 4288, introduced by Representative Burns, a bill to prohibit certain hiring practices by state agencies and prescribe civil sanctions. The people of the state of Michigan enact.
The bill will be considered read for a second time by its title. Are there amendments? There are. The clerk will read.
The Committee on Government Operations, Representative Begol, Chair, recommends the adoption of substitute H1.
The question is on the adoption of the amendment. The clerk will open the board. The amendment is adopted. Are there further amendments? There are. The clerk will read.
Representative Fitzgerald offers one amendment identified as Amendment 1A.
The question is on the adoption of the amendment. The clerk will open the board. The amendment is not adopted. Are there further amendments? There are. The clerk will read.
Representative Burns offers one amendment identified as Amendment 1B.
The question is on the adoption of the amendment. The clerk will open the board. The amendment is not adopted. Are there further amendments? There being no further amendments, the question before the House is advancing the bill to the order.
Just advance it to third.
The question before the House is advancing the bill to the order of third reading. Hearing no objection, the bill is on third reading. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Posthumus.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House proceed to the order of third reading of bills and take up House Bill 4288 and place it on its immediate passage.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
House Bill 4288, introduced by Representative Burns, a bill to prohibit certain hiring practices by state agencies and provide civil sanctions. The people of the state of Michigan enact.
The bill will be considered read for a third time by its title. Are there amendments? There are no amendments. Speaker recognizes Representative Pavlo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today in support of House Bill 4288. I am proud to stand in favor of merit-based hiring and promotional practices. This is a great opportunity for bipartisanship because merit should not be a partisan issue. Merit-based hiring and promotion is simple. You do a good job and you'll be rewarded. Why any other metric matter is a mystery. Every single member in this chamber benefits from objective merit-based standards in some way. When you have a health issue, our laws require that medicine is practiced by licensed and educated individuals who have merited the title of doctor, nurse, and likewise. When our colleagues step into an airplane, they entrust their lives to the skills of pilots who have merited their skills and their careers through rigorous training and many hours of practice. I doubt any colleague would trust me to give them a haircut when compared to the barber or stylist who is licensed and has professional practice. Likewise, there is no place for DEI in our government. So I proudly ask you to, I want you to, every single person in this chamber, to honestly ask themselves a single question. Do you want the best for our great state, or do you want ideological divides to bring everyone down? I, for one, want the best. I want merit to drive Michiganders to heights we once knew, from the manufacturing of the vehicles that were used to transport soldiers in World War II to the simple farmer who grew crops for our kitchen table. We can do the best. We should do the best. I want all Michiganders to do what's best. Just the same, I urge you to do what is best. Hold our state agencies to the standard of hiring the best. Please join me in voting in favor of House Bill 4288 for a better future for our state. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Speaker recognizes Representative Regas.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was really surprised when my colleague from the other side of the aisle decided to reintroduce my bill from last term. We don't always agree on the issues, and that's okay. But I'm glad we're both getting behind merit-based hiring. HB 4288 says loud and clear, Michigan's state workforce hires on merit, not race, not religion, not gender, not anything other than competency. Last year, I fought hard to make sure our state agencies pick the best and the brightest based on skills, education, experience, and know-how, not other less relevant traits. Thanks to my good friend from the 15th District, this bill is back to ensure at-will hires aren't just diversity bingo cards, but actually qualified professionals. DEI left us divided and lowered standards. HB 4288 fixes that by demand.
Speaker recognizes Minority Leader Fitzgerald.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I rise to a point of order today that the speech and debate on the floor of this House must contain and be relevant to the bill itself. And I do not find that in the absence of any diversity, equity, or inclusion language included in this bill, that is relevant or germane to the debate here today.
The House will go at ease at the call of the chair. The House will come to order. Representative Regas's comments are relevant to the merits of the bill. Speaker recognizes Representative Regas.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. DEI has left us divided and lowered standards. HB 4288 fixes that by demanding objective, merit-based hiring. Agencies that choose to hire by race, identity, or anything other than merit will face a $10,000 fine. So colleagues, let's pass 4288, restore fairness, and build a workforce Michigan can be proud of. Thank you to my honorable colleague from the 15th District for reintroducing this bill, and thank you to the 32 co-sponsors, also on the other side of the aisle, for putting forth this common sense legislation over activism. Vote yes, and let's get to work.
Speaker recognizes Representative Burns.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today in support of House Bill 4288, which would prevent hiring from taking place on the basis of personal relationships or insider connections. At a time when many Michiganders are just trying to get by and seeking opportunities to lower costs, we need to ensure it's as fair as possible for them to get jobs they are qualified for. How many Michiganders have said, I was qualified for that position, but I was not an insider or part of the club, so I wasn't even considered? The answer, Madam Speaker, is far too many. This bill helps to create opportunity by eroding the barrier of the old boys club as we work toward a more equal playing field for all Michiganders. Michigan is stronger when various backgrounds and experiences empower the best and brightest to have the opportunity to succeed based on their work experience or education, not their family ties or insider connections. At its core, this bill gets us to more equitable and inclusive hiring practices. It's about a fair economy. I urge my colleagues to join me in voting yes for this bill to create more equitable opportunities for Michiganders. Thank you.
The question before the House is the passage of the bill. A record roll call vote is required. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will open the board. The clerk will close the board. Representative O'Neill votes aye. The clerk will tally, display, and announce the vote.
Madam Speaker, on the question of final passage of House Bill 4288, there are 105 aye votes and 1 nay vote.
A majority of the members elected and serving having voted in favor, therefore, the bill has passed. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Posthumous.
Move for immediate effect.
The Majority Floor Leader moves for immediate effect. All those in favor will rise. Immediate effect is ordered. Speaker recognizes Representative Wagala.
Madam Speaker, I request my name be removed as a co-sponsor of House Bill 4288.
Without objection, so ordered. Speaker recognizes Representative Burns.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to request that the board be open for co-sponsors. Thank you.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will open the board for co-sponsors. The clerk will close the board. Tally, display, and announce the co-sponsorship. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Posthumous.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House proceed to the order of motions and resolutions and take up House Resolution 79.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
House Resolution number 79, introduced by Representative Schuette, a resolution to declare May 2025 as National Lyme Disease Awareness Month in the state of Michigan.
Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Posthumous.
Move to pass for the day.
Without objection, so ordered. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Posthumous.
Continuing on the order of motions and resolutions, I move that the House take up House Resolution 80.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
House Resolution number 80, introduced by Representative Whitwer, a resolution to declare May 2025 as Treatment Court Month in the state of Michigan.
Speaker recognizes Representative Whitwer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in support of my resolution to establish May as Treatment Court Awareness Month in the state of Michigan. In 1992, the first drug treatment court was established in Kalamazoo, Michigan by Judge William Schmay. Eaton County, which is my district, was the second county in the state to introduce a drug treatment court. Judge Harvey Hoffman, who has served several families in our district of Eaton County, introduced the first DWI court in the state and only the second to exist in the nation. At its core, my resolution is about breaking cycles through rehabilitation, not retribution. I've had family members and other individuals throughout our state who are struggling with drug addiction, are at risk of cycling in and out of the justice system. Drug treatment courts are the beacon of hope for Michiganders who need help breaking out of that cycle and getting back on their feet. Treatment courts are the most successful justice system intervention we have at our disposal to both reduce crime and lend people a helping hand out of the deep hole that is substance abuse. Every day, courtrooms across Michigan are filled with neighbors and family members impacted by substance abuse and mental health disorders. It's important that we, as state legislators, recognize and uplift the 84 drug treatment courts in our state that are designed to combine accountability with evidence-based treatment and recovery services for these Michiganders. The tagline for National Treatment Court Month is, "When one person rises, we all rise." Supporting treatment courts to address the underlying cause of criminal behavior doesn't just help the person struggling with addiction, it saves families, reduces costs in court and prison expenditures. It saves taxpayers hard-earned money. And it opens up law enforcement resources to take on more pressing public safety issues. Truly, when one person and one family and one community rises, Michigan rises. Too many Michiganders know what it is like to watch a loved one battle with addiction. As lawmakers, let us take this month as a reminder to actively support treatment courts and ongoing initiatives to protect our communities' public health and safety and addiction survivors' right to a second chance at life. I encourage my colleagues' support for this resolution, to commend our treatment courts for their continued support for the health of Michigan. This resolution is available for co-sponsorship on the electronic calendar. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question before the House is the adoption of House Resolution 8-0. All those in favor of the resolution will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The resolution is adopted. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Pastumas.
Continuing on the order of motions and resolutions, I move that the House take up House Resolution 8-1.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
House Resolution number 8-1, introduced by Representative Vanderwall, a resolution to declare May 2025 as Michigan Moves Month in the state of Michigan.
The question before the House is on the adoption of House Resolution 8-1. All those in favor of the resolution will say aye. Those opposed, nay. The resolution is adopted. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Pastumas.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Continuing on the order of motions and resolutions, I move that the House take up House Resolution 8-2.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
House Resolution number 8-2, introduced by Representative Vanderwall, a resolution to declare May 5th through 9th, 2025 as Tardive Dyskinesia Awareness Week in the state of Michigan.
The question before the House is on the adoption of House Resolution 8-2. All those in favor of the resolution will say aye. Those opposed, nay. The resolution is adopted. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Bagol.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Continuing on the order of motions and resolutions, I move that the House take up House Resolutions 8-3.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
House Resolution number 8-3, introduced by Representative McKinney, a resolution to declare April 30th through May 6th, 2025 as Junior Achievement Week in the state of Michigan.
Speaker recognizes Representative McKinney.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Dear colleagues, on the Electronic Sponsorship Board, I have a grayback available that will proclaim April 30th through May 6th as Junior Achievement Week across Michigan in celebration of Financial Literacy Month and the organization's continued work with the state's youth. Junior Achievement has been a part of the Michigan community for over 70 years and works to empower young people and families statewide. Their steadfast commitment to financial education is essential in the development of our school-aged children. I urge your co-sponsorship and support, and thank you again for your support.
The question before the House is the adoption of House Resolution 8-3. All those in favor of the resolution will say aye. Those opposed, nay. The resolution is adopted. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Bagol.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Continuing on order of motions and resolutions, I move that the House take up House Resolution 8-4.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
House Resolution number 8-4, introduced by Representative Merriman, a resolution to declare May 2025 as Foster Care Awareness Month in the state of Michigan.
The question before the House is on the adoption of House Resolution 8-4. All those in favor of the resolution will say aye. Those opposed, nay. The resolution is adopted. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Bagol.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Continuing on the order of motions and resolutions, I move the House take up House Resolution 8-5.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
House Resolution Number 85, introduced by Representative Miller, a resolution urging the federal government in response to tariff threats to pursue policies that support Michigan farmers.
The resolution is referred to the Committee on Government Operations. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Bagol.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Continuing on order of motions and resolutions, I move the House take up House Resolution 8-6.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
House Resolution Number 86, introduced by Representative Weiss, a resolution to declare May 5th through 9th, 2025 as Teacher Appreciation Week in the state of Michigan.
The Speaker recognizes Representative Weiss.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today in support of my resolution to designate May 5th through May 9th as Teacher Appreciation Week here in the state of Michigan. Teachers across our state dedicate their time, hearts, and souls to their classrooms and students. They buy their own supplies. They stay up late grading papers and planning lessons. They show up early to prepare for the day and staying long after the last bell rings to offer extra help. They work tirelessly, often behind the scenes, to ensure that every child succeeds. And yet, far too often, their efforts go unrecognized. In addition to educating, teachers are increasingly expected to serve as counselors, social workers, mentors, role models, especially in schools facing staffing shortages and under-resourced support systems. Teachers take on these roles not because they're required to or compensated to, but because they care deeply about their students' well-being. As a former teacher, I know the immense challenges and incredible rewards that the profession brings. I can say without hesitation, as hard and rewarding as this job currently can be, that the hardest and most meaningful work that I've ever done was in the classroom. I am more proud of what I've accomplished in the classroom than anything else that I've done in my life. But right now, teachers across Michigan are facing unprecedented uncertainty. They are uncertain about resources, about staffing, and about the safety of their students, and whether they will have what they need to support their students next year. And so, Madam Speaker, the best way we can show our appreciation is not just with words, but with action. We owe it to our teachers and to our students to make sure that they have the resources that they need to be successful by ensuring that we pass a full education budget by July 1st. Let's give our schools the funding and stability that they need so that teachers can confidently plan for the upcoming year and focus on what they do best, educating our next generation. I urge support for this resolution and strongly encourage each and every one of us to thank the teachers in our lives, not only this week, but every day. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and the resolution is available for co-sponsorship on the electronic calendar. Thank you.
The question before the House is on the adoption of House Resolution 8-6. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, nay. The resolution is adopted. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Bagol.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just to let the members know, there'll be no further voting today, and when the House adjourns today, the House will stand adjourned until Tuesday, May 6, 2025 at 1:30 p.m.
The House will stand at ease at the call of the chair.
The House come to order. There being no further business to come before the House, Representative Ryan Gans moves that the House do now adjourn. Hearing no objection, the House will stand adjourned until Tuesday, May 6, 2025 at 1:30 p.m.